In honor of Women's History Month, the White House released a comprehensive report on women in America. It shows where women have made tremendous gains and areas where we still lag behind. Here's an example. Young women are now more likely than young men to have a college degree, but whatever their level of education, women earn only about 75 cents for every dollar a man earns. Why is that? Joining us this morning for a closer look are Lucy Danziger, who's editor-in-chief of Self magazine, and business and career consultant Ronna Lichtenberg. Good to have you both with us this morning.
Thanks.
I feel like that number keeps coming up, the disparity in pay, and we want to take a little bit closer look at it because it also has a lot to do, it turns out, with race. If we look at it, Asian women make about 95, the pay gap is about 95%, white women 82%, and then we see a huge dip. African-American women, 71%, Hispanic women, 62%. We're making more than ever, but there's still this gap. Why?
Well, I mean, we'd say you have to value yourself, right? That for most women, talking about money may be an uncomfortable place, but think of it in terms of time. That missing quarter doesn't sound like a lot, but if your future employer said, oh, by the way, you're going to have to work 10 hours while your male colleagues are going to work 8, then you might say, well, that's not fair, right? Mm-hmm. Those 2 extra hours are the same 25% that we're missing in our paycheck. Those are 2 hours you could spend taking care of yourself, your family, having leisure.
Right. So then Ronna, how do you change that?
I see it a little different from
Okay.
Lucy, which is that we're past the days of overt discrimination, right? They're not ads anymore that say we want a woman or we want a man and we're going to pay you less. Publicly held companies cannot do that. And even the soft discrimination is much better than it was. So that number also reflects choices that women are making about what they study, what careers they're going after, and also what they're doing at work. Are they there 5 days a week? Are they taking lots of time off? So it's not the old-fashioned head-to-head, you're a guy, so you're going to make more than me.
So you don't find those numbers as troubling?
I don't find them as troubling. What troubles me is that we don't know enough about what's underneath them. Right?
Okay.
On the surface, it looks like the same old problem, but it isn't because we know that the discrimination has really gotten better. What's underneath them, for example, things like math. You look at the Asian numbers, right? And you think about tiger mommies everywhere saying, do your math homework. Grow up to be an engineer and you're going to get paid a lot more.
Right. Well, you bring up an interesting point because another area that was looked at is education. And if we can take a look at this, women are more likely to go to college, to have that college degree, as we know. They're more likely to have a master's degree. But what's interesting is what it found is that they have a bit of a dip. And we are behind when it comes to studying things like math, like science, like technology. Did you expect to see that?
I absolutely did, and that's where the growth in the economy is. So to Lucy's point, taking care of yourself is great, but the choice is if you want to be in the labor market and you want to make a lot of money, you're going to need science, math, and technology.
Right.
There's no way around it.
Right, but so another thing that this study pointed out is that women are actually marrying later, which is great. We're not talking about at the end of your biological reproductive years. We're really talking about instead of in your early 20s, maybe your mid to late 20s, that gives you a little more traction in the workplace. So when you finally do have kids, you can say to your boss, hey, I'd like some flex time. That's great. That's economic freedom and choices and opportunity. So one of the things this study did was basically almost 50 years passed before the checkup that we took in 1963. Great news is that we have this checkup, but as you said, we have to look at the numbers more closely because what does it really tell you about the health and well-being of this woman?
Well, and you bring up health, and this is something that really stood out, I think, to all three of us as we were talking in the break about this study. Women, and we know so much more about our health today, and there are umpteen magazines dedicated to it, including Self. And yet, women are more likely to have chronic health conditions. And I think we have a list of them. We have asthma, bronchitis, emphysema, and the last one I think we have on our list there is depression. We are so much more likely to be depressed.
Well, obviously, if you are working that famous double shift, it's not even in the study, but you come home from this long hours.
2 full-time jobs.
Right. Now you have the family, the dishes in the sink. Women take care of everyone else before they take care of themselves. And so we say, put that oxygen mask on yourself before you help the person next to you is a valid point that the airlines make. If you collapse health-wise, you're no good to anyone around you. So we say value yourself, take care of yourself. Self gives you the doctor's excuse to put yourself at the top of your to-do list.
But I would also say that we've come from centuries of all the medical studies being on men. You know, it was assumed that if you were human, you were a man, and then they applied that to women. So it's only been with heart disease that scientists started saying, wait a minute, women are different.
Yeah.
What's intriguing now about this study is, I agree totally with Lucy about lifestyle factors, but I would also say we don't know the biological differences. And so as we look at, well, why is that different for women? Is it this, or is there something else which will be helpful for men too? This is not win-lose.
It would be interesting to see how that changes in another 25, 50 years. The study, again, is fascinating. And you mentioned really quickly, just one thing I want to point out for people at home, that we're marrying later. We're also having fewer children, having them later. And that study did show that, in fact, it seems to mean we're focusing more on education and career. It's a great snapshot.
Right.
Good to have both of you with us to help break it down.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.